Hello everybody, welcome to Deluxe Collectibles, and today I'm going to be discussing a topic regarding LEGO Ninjago and its animation style. I thought that this was a relevant discussion to have now, after all of the Reimagined Legacy shorts have aired, and of course, we got to see Ninjago experimenting with a ton of different animation styles for each of these shorts, so I kind of wanted to discuss the future style of the animation for the actual series, and whether or not I think it should evolve into one of these other sorts of styles that we saw experimented with in these shorts, or how I think the sort of future should be for the animation of the series. I thought this would be interesting to discuss because I always hear people kind of talking about them wanting to take Ninjago into more of a Monkey Kid sort of animation style, and I do like that style of animation, and I want to preface this video as well by saying when I describe any of these animation styles, if I say I don't want it to go into that form, I don't dislike the style necessarily. I just think that it might not work as well for Ninjago, and I also just might like another style just a bit more over that. It's all just my personal opinion here, so please let me know your thoughts on this discussion down below, but without further ado, let's get into it here. So I'm going to kind of start by discussing the Reimagined shorts here and kind of what sort of styles from these that I think would work really well. Of course, one of the ones that we'll skip over is the Golden Hour short, because that was basically just like the original style of LEGO Ninjago, so there isn't really anything that it would evolve into, I suppose, but I want to touch on definitely the much more unique styles. Now, one of the ones that I'm not going to touch on is A Day in the Life of a Golden Ninja. I just don't really think that style would work very well for the Ninjago series. I don't think they would ever really go in that direction anyway, so that one's kind of off the table for me personally. I think it worked extremely well for that short and the context of it and sort of the comedic sort of tone of it as well with classic cartoon style, but I think for the actual series it wouldn't work nearly as well. But going into the ones where I think could be really interesting, so one of the first ones I want to touch on is the Golden Legend short, of course the one that's in a very ancient sort of Japanese style, I would say, and very sort of simplistic in some ways as well, and very slow paced also. Now with this style, I absolutely loved it for the actual shorts, and just a side note here, this video is also just going to be for me to gush about the animation in all of these shorts as well, but it looked phenomenal in that actual short, but I think within the context of the show, it just wouldn't fit as well. Now, I would like to see some sort of continuation of this short. I think that would be great to actually get to see the ninja in that sort of style, because we got to see them frozen in gold, but not their actual like color schemes and everything going on in action. So I think that would definitely be very cool to see, but I don't think it would fit the show just animation style wise and tonal wise. I don't think Ninjago is that dark of a show, and I believe that these shorts were also made to kind of like take on different tones as well that you wouldn't normally see in Ninjago, or you might not get as much of, so it's definitely good for experimenting with that, but I just feel like it's something that wouldn't work as well for the actual series. But then moving on to one of the other ones, Gold Rush. Now this one I've honestly seen as one of the most popular ones of people saying I wouldn't mind if Ninjago took on this style of animation, and honestly I do like the style of it. It is a little bit reminiscent of Monkey Kid, I suppose, but just slightly different in the lighting, I would say, and some of the lines as well. It doesn't have as defined lines, I feel like, on the actual designs of the characters and the backgrounds, but it's just not something where I think that it would work as well for the actual series. Now I'm going to kind of get to what I actually want to happen with the series. We're kind of just crossing stuff off to sort of start off this video here, but it's just not something that I feel would work as well. Now I would like to see, if you know, of course, within Ninjago they did this especially during season 11 where they did the sort of anime segments, people like to call them, but the 2D animation segments within those episodes, which I love getting to see them do that and sort of experiment with different animation, and I wouldn't mind if they did something akin to that within the series where they use this sort of style, or really any style that they used within the Reimagined shorts within the context of the show. If they're telling a backstory of a character, a little side story, a jokey thing, something like that, kind of like a cutaway sort of deal, I think it would be cool to sort of utilize these animation styles that they've now experimented with and kind of got feedback from the community now of Ninjago fans. So I think that was kind of good. It's kind of a smart way with these shorts to sort of test the waters of the opinions of fans on these styles, styles, and I love the Gold Rush style. It's one of my favorite of the shorts, and I will be ranking those shorts as well, but not talking about that now. But yeah, I think it works really well. I do like it, but I don't think for the actual series I would like to see that style. Now, I saved this last short for the last one because I think this is the one where I would like to see this style the most, and it's honestly the one where it's one of the least drastic changes, I suppose, and I don't know if it would really work with the actual series, but it's the one where I wouldn't mind seeing it just kind of experimented with, and that is, of course, the sweat into the Goldies one, and that short was really fantastic. I love the style of it. It kind of had almost more of like, I don't even know how to call it, like a different texture to the animation, and the lighting as well was very different. It kind of reminded me of like a Telltale game, kind of like a more graphic novel sort of style to it, I want to say. Not exactly that, but something sort of similar to it, and I think it was definitely really well done, and kind of similar to the Hidden Side style of the episodes that they did online. So I think it was something similar to sort of that, but just kind of felt a bit more upgraded with more of a budget behind it. So I think that was really well done, and I wouldn't mind kind of seeing that experimented with more. I think even that could be used for cutaway scenes and stuff like that if they were telling backstory, because I feel like it's different enough where you can kind of make a distinction between the normal style of animation and that. And then I also think it's not too drastic where it feels like, oh, we're in like a completely different style here, which I have no issue with, but I think it's just kind of the one that works the most and is definitely the most similar. You could probably tell I like the style that we go with, so that's kind of why my top choice of which one I'd like them to change it to from the Reimagined shorts would be that style, because I wanted to kind of talk about this mainly is sort of why I like the style that they use for Ninjago, because I honestly hear, not really complaining, I suppose, but people kind of wanting them to just change up the style a bit, kind of like almost reinvent Ninjago in a sort of way, animation style wise, and I know a lot of people love the Monkey Kid style, and I think that definitely works extremely well for that series. Also, just kind of like the tone of that series as well. I have watched the pilot of Monkey Kid, and it definitely fits very well, the sort of sketchy, quick style and kind of the movements of the characters. It's a little bit more goofy, I would say, than Ninjago, and also the action scenes in that I feel like it works really well because they have a very hyper sort of energy to them, so I think it works phenomenally for that series, but I don't know if it would work as well with Ninjago. And I also like the fact that that is Monkey Kid style. I don't want Ninjago to necessarily become Monkey Kid or take on that style of Monkey Kid, so I think it definitely works quite well for that series, but I don't think it would work as well for Ninjago necessarily. Now, would I be opposed to seeing it? No, honestly, with any of these animation styles. I have enough trust in the people behind Ninjago working on it that they're going to make the right decision with if they ever change the style. Of course, I'm not saying they are going to change the style, but that's kind of what I want to get into, is that I think the style that Ninjago is using currently works so well because it looks just like the actual toys that you're purchasing, and I think that ties in really well with the actual products. Of course, we've seen things like this isn't the exact same scenario, but let's say like Hidden Side with the box art and kind of how the designs of that were very much like just a sort of artwork piece, and it wasn't really showing the actual product off too well. But so I feel like that's, of course, kind of part of the reason why Hidden Side didn't wind up selling too well and wind up getting retired kind of prematurely. So I feel like with Ninjago, when you see a build within the show, let's say the Destiny's Bounty, it looks very, very accurate to the actual product. Like the actual toy and vice versa, they look very good together. They definitely have been able to replicate that style of the animation very well in the toy, and also vice versa in the actual show. And I think that does such a good job. Even just recently in Seabound, of course, we got to see a lot of the products for that within the show, and it was an interesting situation because we were kind of seeing that in the show before we were officially seeing it in the set. So it was interesting because then within the show it was great for like advertising, of course, of those products, because at the end of the day, Ninjago is a Lego brand show, so that is one of its jobs that it has to do. Of course, it can still deliver a phenomenal story as it always does, but I think that's also one of the purposes of it as well to kind of work those into it, and I think the style that it has right now definitely works phenomenally for that. But what I want to get into is that I think that, like, the evolution that I would like to see for Ninjago, and this is being very optimistic. I mean, I'm sure they would have to, like, budgetary wise, I'm not sure if this would work, but just as a bit of a pipe dream here, I would love to see Ninjago adopt a sort of style like the actual Lego movies. Now, not necessarily the Lego Ninjago movie. I know a lot of people didn't really care for how they worked in a lot of real world elements with that, like the water was real, stuff like that, the environmental things, but I feel like if it adopted a style even like the Lego movie from like 2014, let's say, that would be absolutely amazing. And I know it's a completely different scale. That is a film, of course, and then this is a show. They're going to have very different budgets, but if we could ever get to a point like that, or if there ever is an evolution in Lego's animation for Ninjago as a series, I think it would be amazing to have a series like that. Like, can you imagine getting to watch an episode of Ninjago and then it looks like the animation in the Lego movie? Like, that would just be crazy. I think it would be so cool to see that, and you could work in a lot more Lego physics as well. Of course, I know Ninjago doesn't exactly have the same sort of style just within the context of the film. Like you see in the Lego movie, they play a lot of gags and jokes in the film around the fact that they are Lego minifigures, and of course end up interacting with live action portions, which I wouldn't want to see in the Ninjago series. So I get that there are some differences there, but just with the textures and the shadings of the characters, the pieces, everything like that, it makes it look so lifelike that I think that could be really cool. It's almost like putting a texture pack over it that makes it just look so real. So I think that could kind of be a cool evolution to wind up seeing with the actual show. I think that could kind of be the route that they could go. I don't necessarily want to see a very drastic change in the animation at any point. And once again, I'm not saying that there is going to be, but I think that this is definitely very interesting and sort of a just intriguing topic to sort of discuss, because Ninjago stuck with a very similar animation style, even with Wild Brain, of course, coming in and doing the animation now, starting from like season 11 to now. Like, it's definitely changed a little bit, but you can still recognize Ninjago as it was all the way back, I mean, to the pilot, you could say. Of course, the animations evolved, the movements, the actual shading, the textures, everything, the lighting, all of it, it just gets better and better and keeps exceeding my expectations of it. But it definitely is sort of like the same style, and I think that's good as well, because I like a good like continuity thread with it all. Of course, you can see changes in designs of the characters, of course, in season 8, having that, definitely taking inspiration from the Lego Ninjago movie. So I think that is definitely very interesting, and that's stuff that I do like to see. But primarily with the actual style of the animation, I definitely think that there are some things that they can experiment with, and I'm completely open to that. I love seeing them do that. I would like to see some continuations of maybe the Reimagined shorts, for them to kind of do that maybe once every year. I think that could be kind of cool to get 5 shorts, but who knows what we can wind up receiving in the future. I look forward to it though, no matter what it is. I'm sure I'm still going to love it, because it's going to have the great storytelling that Ninjago always has. So I look forward to it nonetheless. I think it's just a fun topic to sort of discuss, and I really want to hear your thoughts and opinions on Ninjago's animation style. Do you want it to stay the same as it is now, or do you want it to kind of go into a different sort of style completely, or evolve kind of into like more of a Lego movie style, a more heightened sort of real life sort of style of that sort with more textures and everything? But let me know your kind of thoughts on that, because I'm really curious to hear everyone's opinions, because I feel like everyone stands sort of from a different perspective on this topic. So that's kind of why I wanted to discuss it here. But thanks so much for checking out the video. I really do appreciate it. If you did enjoy, be sure to leave a like, also subscribe as well if you would like to check out some of my other content. That would be highly appreciated. So thank you so much. I'll see you all next time, and always remember, keep on collecting.